Joining us now is the Middle East correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate, Josh Hasten. Josh, appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much.
So let's go ahead and take a listen to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, what he had to say about the handover of the Bibas family, and I'll let you react.
All of Israel is united in grief. And as the Prime Minister of Israel, I vow that I will not rest until the savages who executed our hostages are brought to justice. They do not deserve to walk this earth. Nothing will stop me. Nothing.
So could we see Israeli military reprisals for the deaths of the Bibas family? And as you're answering that, for people who have not been watching the news the last couple of days, tell us how everything unfolded as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, you have to understand you're talking about pure evil here. You're talking about a mother and her two infant sons, two little boys, a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old, who were kidnapped from their homes on October the 7th, 2023. And it turns out, unfortunately, that they were murdered. They were brutally murdered by Hamas. They were strangled to death. And this was only revealed to us this week. As Hamas, you saw in that it was a celebration, really. They returned to Israel after 500 days in which we prayed that they were going to be returned alive. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They were returned in coffins in a celebration as the Hamas children in Gaza celebrated their very, very emotional week here in Israel. And Shiri Bibas, the mother, who was also brutally murdered by Hamas, they didn't even return her body along with the two babies on Thursday. They returned the body of just some random woman in Gaza. And eventually here on Saturday, her body was returned. So now the husband, who was also kidnapped on October 7th, 2023, he was released several weeks ago. So now he is in mourning. He's going to sit Shiva, the Jewish custom of mourning, over his wife and over his two children. So a very, very terrible, emotional week here in Israel. And yes, Prime Minister Netanyahu is vowing to find those directly responsible for kidnapping the family members, the Bibas family members, finding those responsible and bringing them to justice. So just a terrible week. And then here this evening, the release of another six Israeli hostages. And this coming Thursday, Israel is set to receive another 6 of those who were murdered by Hamas, ending phase 1 of this very, very fragile ceasefire. That's where we are right now.
And we're looking at these anti-government protests there in Israel and just some of the signs. I'm not sure if you can see, but they say end the bloodshed, don't blow the deal, 63, bring them home. So there are more than 60 hostages believed to still be there. Not sure how many are even still alive, but there is a big push this weekend by family members of these hostages because they believe time is really running out as phase 1 is concluding, and we're hoping that phase 2 goes as planned. What needs to happen to make sure phase 2 does indeed go through?
So, yeah, as you said, there are about 60 hostages. Unfortunately, it is already known that about half of them are believed to already have been murdered by Hamas. So there are two paths right now which Israel can take. Number one is go down the path of phase 2, which would be entering another negotiation with Hamas to bring back the 60, 30 plus, which are alive, believed to be alive, and another 30, 30 hostages, which already, unfortunately, we know are dead. But that would lead, according to the deal, to an end to the war with Hamas. Essentially, though, that would leave Hamas in power. Whatever is left of Hamas, they would remain in control of Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying time and time again that the day after the war, Hamas cannot be in power in Gaza. So if that is the case, it's not exactly clear how Israel can go to phase 2 of that war. One of the 3 goals of the war is Hamas cannot be in power. Another one of the goals is, in fact, bringing back the hostages. And the third goal is that Gaza can no longer be a threat to the state of Israel. So it's unclear at this point how all those 3 things can be accomplished if, in fact, Hamas remains in power. So it's unclear at this point what's going to happen. 2 options, as President Trump stated, and as Prime Minister Netanyahu stated, the 2 options are, do we go to phase 2? Or does Israel go back to war? And of course, it's been a long, very long, drawn-out war. It's been 500 days. A lot of people, as you see in those demonstrations, do want the war to end. Of course, everyone wants the hostages to come back. But that being said, we do not want Hamas. The United States has been clear. Israel's been clear. Hamas cannot be in power the day after the war ends.
Yeah, I mean, is there even such a thing as a permanent ceasefire, which is the ultimate goal here, if Hamas is not extinguished completely? We've got to leave it there. The Middle East correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate, Josh Hasten, thanks for joining us on News Nation Now.